The concept of a united Scandinavia isn't a new one, it's actually a rather old one. But the concept has been gaining in popularity ever since the 19th century in Denmark. The Danes, who had lost significant power in the region earlier that century, looked to ally and unite the Nordic people together for a common goal. The purpose behind this wasn't a unified nation to beat back threats, but an alliance of nations to protect and solve problems in the region. The concept didn't start there, however. It was started and actually put into practice back in the 15th century. The crowns of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden were unified under and into one nation, the Kalmar Union, which lasted from 1397 to 1521. This union was a political one, where one ruler was representing three individual kingdoms, each of them technically having equal representation of power, and would each be ruled and governed by their own laws. The kingdoms were only to act in unison in regards to foreign policy. One of the main purposes of this union was to act as a way to block German expansion into the Baltic region. Later, this union acted to prevent German dominance of the Baltic trade, which was extremely important to the Swedish economy. The first ruler of the nation, Margrethe I, held power until her death in 1412. She had chosen Erik of Pomerania to be her successor, who was a grandson to her sister. Erik came to the throne during a time of conflict in the Southern Danish duchy of Schelswig. The duchy of Holstein had largely occupied the region, with them holding the city of Flensburg, a major city of Schelswig. From what research is available, military action wasn't taken against Holstein until over a decade later. The Hanseatic League, who had given large military and economic support to Holstein, declared war in response to the Kalmar tolls on the Danish sound for all foreign ships. This resulted in a 10-year-long war between the League and the Union, and proved to be the main catalyst for the erosion of unity between the three kingdoms. Export of goods, especially iron, was extremely important to the Swedish economy, and the war against the Hansa, who had superiority in the Baltic, caused frequent and constant halts in trade while the collection of taxes continued. This angered a large amount of the peasantry, who held substantial power and land within Sweden, at least in comparison to feudal nations at that time. This was combined with an increasing worry by the Swedish nobles in regards to Danish consolidation and centralization of power over the previous 3 decades, which was stripping away power from the local governments and attempting to adopt a more central role. This led to the Algn rebellion in 1434, one of the many revolts by Sweden against Denmark. This rebellion, which was the start of many more revolts in the future, was largely successful, and combined with the loss to Hansa, led to Erik being removed from power in Sweden and Denmark, holding the throne of Norway for only 2 more years. Norway during this period of time was still reeling from the effects of the Black Death the previous century, in which upwards of 2/3 of the population had died during the 6-month outbreak. Due to this, the Norwegian nobility had lost a large amount of their economic and political power. Many weren't able to hold onto the land due to the lack of workers for the fields, which had already been complicated by a gradual decline of the Norwegian population for decades. Sweden at this point was waging its own internal civil war of sorts between the nobility. This instability resulted in nearly 8 decades of control going between local Swedish lords, an election or conquest to put a Danish king on the Swedish throne. Under the rule of Danish King Christian II came the last attempt to force Sweden back under the Union. Prior to this invasion, the core foundation of Catholicism was shaken by the Protestant Reformation for most of Europe. In Sweden, the Protestant Reformation gained a strong foothold and resulted in religious tensions between the populace. When a cardinal and archbishop by the name of Gustav Trolle was dismissed from the Swedish council, King Christian of Denmark invaded, both to regain control of Sweden, but also to reinforce church authority to the region. The first part he managed to do, taking Stockholm in 1520 and being crowned Swedish king. Shortly after the ceremony, Christian had 82 nobles that had opposed the Union executed in what is referred to as the Stockholm Bloodbath. This not only ended the century-long civil war between the nobility, but largely for support towards Gustav Vasa, a noble who was leading a small rebel army in the northern province of Dalarna. What followed was the Swedish War of Liberation, which resulted in the Treaty of Malmö in 1524, recognizing Swedish independence and putting an end to the Kalmar Union. I hope you liked this brief video about the history of the Kalmar Union and how it came to be. If you'd like to learn a little bit as to what would happen if the Kalmar Union never ended, click here for a special episode that I did about that some years ago. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.